we go to executive session?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll call the Berlin School Committee meeting to order.
And I would like to call the Boyle Spring School Committee meeting to order. Okay. As indicated on our agenda, the first item of business will be executive session. So I need a motion to go into executive session. So I was going to finish the motion.
Sorry.
We're an anxious crowd.
I can see that tonight. To discuss strategy with respect to litigation and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining.
So
I second that.
Okay.
Did I just make a suggestion?
Yes, you may interject.
Thank you. And I think for the sake of time, it might be in, well, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. I was just going to say that you have to close them all and open them all. If there's any quick business items you can do, just do it, then you don't have to reopen every one of them afterwards. But
Yeah. But
that's your call.
Yeah, we'll move ahead this way.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to do it by each committee?
Yes, but it's executive session for all?
No, it's not.
Only for Berlin.
That's right. So we're going into executive session now, which means Janet. All set, thank you. Okay, we have warrants, get orals going around, people are signing it. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda for the Berlin-Boylston Regional School Committee, the July 12th open session minutes.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approval? Aye. Approval is unanimous. Under business items, Angela, Berlin School Committee.
I haven't looked at my agenda. I'm guessing it says do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for which dates? July?
Actually, you're doing the most of the time with us folks.
So each year we get a copy, it's kind of like an audit of the Moses Reed Tyler, and it comes to Cheryl. And so we just, you see a copy of that audit and then we sign it. So, I guess,
We need a vote to
Yes.
accept it.
yes. So, do I have a motion to accept the audit for the Moses Reed Tyler Trust?
Edward makes the motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
No? All of
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Regional School Committee. We need a vote to accept the donation to the Tohoto Music Department. Did you have a chance to read that? And that's what that's all about? Does someone want to make a motion? Motion. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Are there any questions, comments? All those voting to accept the donation to the Tohoto Music Department, say aye.
Aye.
Right. Lori, this is your item next.
Regionalization
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
I have, we have 4 new members that we need the committee to officially appoint to the Regionalization Exploratory Committee. One is BMS teacher Molly Langolier, Boylston parent Tara Rondo, Berlin resident Linda Sally, and Boylston resident Michael DeBrule.
Okay.
Once we vote, I will read the entire list if people want, or,
Actually, I just appoint.
Yeah.
oh,
It's
fabulous.
one of those little powers you have.
Yes.
Use it when you can. So I will appoint those people to the committee.
Terrific, thank you.
And just one correction, Linda's last name is Salee,
Pronounced
pronounced
Salee.
Salee.
Is it spelled S-A-L-L?
It is spelled correctly, but it's pronounced Salee.
You will save me the embarrassment on Thursday night.
I'm sure she's accustomed to that name being mispronounced.
Thank you.
We all had the opportunity for the first read of the school social worker job description. Since we don't have Nadine here to answer any questions about that, is there anything you want to say about that?
It's a first read.
First read, I know, just checking. Okay, oh, the agreement. Did you all see the copy of the agreement with NASC in regards to the superintendent search? Jim, you added some suggested language.
I had some suggested language just around
Yes.
maintaining that if we aren't successful in the first search, we maintain the intellectual property and the outcome of the search.
Yes.
So, can I just clarify, if you go through, you have us until you have a superintendent with a signed contract. So if you go through the search and it doesn't yield anyone, the search is not complete.
Okay. Oh, that's good. All right, so that's good to understand. That wasn't information that we got. So if we get to a point where, we appoint an interim superintendent and haven't hired a full-time, does that still mean the search is incomplete?
Yep, this is for a full-time superintendent, so
Okay, then
until
that's-
you have a signed contract for a permanent superintendent, we're searching.
Okay, excellent. That's good news.
So does that mean that language didn't have to be in there? 'Cause-
Oh, well, it's always nice to have language.
It's-
you know?
It's fine.
Well, my other thought on it too is we hire a superintendent and that superintendent quits.
If it's within a year, we do the search. We do
A
it
year
on
and a
search.
half.
Then you're on your own.
So my point was, as it relates to, candidates we interviewed and sorry, what's the terminology I'm looking for, but the piece we put together to.
Oh, that's yours,
outline
yeah.
that. That's ours, all that stuff's to keep, so my point is, we may not be able to go back to the budget in the next year and ask for money again because
Right.
we hired someone who left.
That's right.
Right, so we have stuff that we can use and not have to go ask for more money to do that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we
Yeah,
had that.
printing, obviously.
That was the reason for my.
Yeah, no, I'm just sort of joking. I mean, it's fine. It's in there and it's fine, so.
Good. So we will need to formally have a vote to approve the contract tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with MASC for the superintendent search.
Second.
Okay, did you get that?
I made the movement.
Jim motioned and Lori.
Either Ed or I.
Okay.
You can have it Ed second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now we're legal.
All right.
I'm going to turn this over to Dorothy.
Okay.
Some of us, I barely know Dorothy. I believe there are people who know her well, and there are some of us who have never met her, I'm sure.
I'm Matt.
I'm Matt.
Jim.
Jim. Hi, Ed.
Lori.
Angela?
Hello again.
Cliff. Yeah.
We've talked on the phone quite a bit.
Yes, Deborah.
The agreement with MASC, that was the vote, and then underneath it says the superintendent search process.
We're just discussing it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's fine.
I know, things are just different.
Okay, so you ready?
I am Dorothy.
So there's some things that I know you have in your packet, but I have copies of them anyway. Starting with the draft timeline that I sent around.
Yeah.
And what I don't, if
Does
you
everyone
need it or
have it?
not. You want to flip to it? What I'm really hoping is that we can, everything that is on the Tuesday, August 8th, that we can get through tonight, because really that's about the only way I can see us keeping to this timeline and having you have someone hired by November 1st.
So I just have a really bizarre question.
Sure, sure.
Are you here wearing two hats tonight? You're
Yes.
representing MASC regarding the superintendent search, but you're also our facilitator for our workshop.
Yes.
So we're not at the workshop.
No.
Okay.
That was my
Just
confusion.
checking.
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, and I apologize.
Right, so I'm here sort of for two pieces of business. One is the superintendent search, and then the other is whatever capacity for doing a workshop you have after we're done with this.
Yeah, which isn't going to be much.
Okay, so you have the timeline, and what I would like to discuss tonight, first of all, answer any questions that you have about the whole process, but also see if we can get through everything that's listed under Tuesday, August 8th. I guess starting with looking at the timeline and seeing if you have any questions about that, if you think it's reasonable and doable. It's aggressive, but.
I was going to ask you, do you think it's a,
It is very doable. We have done searches with this, I did the timeline and I sent it to all my colleagues and I said, poke holes in this. And they all came back and said, no, you can do this.
relative to this time of year also, though?
Relative to this,
Okay, good.
I'm already
Thank you.
getting phone calls. People already know the job is out there. So they're waiting for it to be posted. And we've really gotten a bit away from the only time of year a superintendent can start is July 1st. There are superintendents who start, January 1st would be the next most popular.
Yeah.
But there are superintendents who starts various times of the year.
Great.
So it is doable from that standpoint. But it does mean chugging through a few things quickly. And so far as the advertising time is concerned, we have certainly done searches before with that, advertising breaking to the application process closing within that timeline and gotten a more than sufficient number of resumes.
The only question I have about the timeline is, I'm very comfortable with all of it. The vote to appoint on October 19th,
Mm-hmm.
this is more of a technical issue. We are already scheduled to meet on October 24th.
Oh, sure. Well, the reason I put it, we can move that, obviously. The only reason that I put that was because you had your desire to have someone in place by November 1st, and you vote to appoint, then you negotiate the contract.
Right.
So I wanted to allow that little bit of time so you actually had someone in place by November 1st. But if it's the 24th, then, that's totally up to you guys.
It's already on our agenda.
Yeah.
We've all saved it. Yes?
24th,
Yes. Do you think it's too late?
kind of.
Okay, then talk about that.
Yeah.
Can we reschedule the meeting for the 24th up to the 19th and not have to do the 24th?
We could. It's a Thursday. We don't normally meet on Thursdays, but we could.
Can we roll up the decision to the 17th? I guess that doesn't work because that doesn't really give us.
Well, we're visiting on the 16th. It's a pretty aggressive timeline. It's tough to.
How critical is it that someone is on board November 1 versus November 15th? Or is that critical in our minds?
Well, they wouldn't be on board. We would have negotiated.
You'd
an
have a
agreement.
signed contract. I guess the longer you push it out, if someone that you hire is under contract somewhere right now, they're going to probably have a certain number of days' notice that they'll need to get before they can break that contract. So the longer you push it out, the longer the start time is.
Is there mass law or legality to a district not having a superintendent in a seat?
That's the one position you need to have.
So November 1 comes, we're still negotiating.
Well,
We
even
need to-
even if you have someone hired November 1, the likelihood that they can start November 1 is pretty slim.
Okay, so we need to
So
have
you would
someone.
need to have someone, say, from November to January.
Okay, just
because
curious if there's a
Yeah.
requirement to have
Yeah.
somebody in that seat.
Somebody's got to call snow days. So,
And none of us want to be doing that.
no, it's.
We just
it's-
minimize that
I'm just, but it is the one position that you have to have filled. in the
Okay.
district.
I just was
Yes.
curious.
So, I mean, you have a lot of options. You can hire someone, you can have an internal person cover the position during the, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's
You can
no,
appoint an internal individual.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that was my
Yes.
concern. I just didn't know.
yeah,
like,
you just have to have somebody
There's a
that's
state-
designated.
I've always wanted to be a superintendent.
Well, you'll have to leave the school committee to do that.
Tiny little detail.
Sorry.
So, and this is, not to beat this one over too, but if we choose to appoint someone, they don't have to be fully credentialed necessarily within, for instance, so if we chose a teacher that's non-union, that we said, okay, you're gonna be appointed in the short term, they don't have to have a doctorate or any other, like, it's just somebody who we're choosing to sort of hold the
Yes.
seat.
Okay. So Angela, you're still uncomfortable with the 24th? And it's okay if you are. I mean, you
I don't know.
are the most experienced member of the committee.
I've never had a higher superintendent, so, it's only, it's a 5-day difference.
Jesus, I was worried about that.
I honestly
To the night of
think,
the 24th.
Well, can I tell you the other reason why I say that? Because if you're thinking about that week of the 19th, or that week of the 16th, you'll be here because you'll be interviewing. So my thought was that you'd be interviewing maybe Monday through Thursday, and you usually want to have that deliberation and decision once you finish the interviews. The longer you kind of let it sit out there in the community, it's harder.
Good
So-
point.
I just think this is extremely critical. We got to put in the extra time and the extra meetings.
Sure.
I prefer to keep it the 19th.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions about the timeline? Well, it looks like Dorothy, you can tick off the first item.
All right, okay. So the next one, the next item on the list, I'll just check through the list in this order, it might not be the perfect order, but, is my recommendations on the advertising. What we find, first of all, any position that we are doing a search for, we put it on our website, and it goes on the Superintendent Association website. Anyone in Massachusetts who's looking for a position knows that's where to look. Then the other thing that we would suggest doing is creating a brochure and mailing that out to all Massachusetts districts and the districts in New England, and the New England states, the districts in the different New England states. Sometimes committees choose to advertise in Ed Week. It's expensive, and given the size of your district, you're not likely to find the person from California or Nebraska who's going to move to Berlin-Boylston. And we find that a lot of districts that advertise in Ed Week, they find the person next door. It's probably $2,000 to $2,500 to advertise in Ed Week, and it would be an ad that you would get about 10 days worth of benefit out of. So we would really suggest that you do your advertising on the web and with the brochure mail. And we also, we are also doing some recruiting of people that we know are looking. We don't rate other districts, but, maybe assistant superintendents, or we rate other states if we know people are looking. So, we do some outreach as well. So that would really mean that your cost for advertising is really pretty low.
Reactions, thoughts?
And is the brochure that is mailed to all the districts in New England, or does that just go to the front office and they post it in the conference?
No. It goes to the superintendent, it goes to the assistant superintendents, because that's generally the people who are interested in the job.
Oh, okay, so it's the person out there that's ready
Yeah.
for a move and
Yeah.
wants, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Any other
Any thoughts or
questions?
questions on that?
Would you like a formal approval of this approach?
Well, the only reason that I would say yes is because you want it in your contract that you would approve the advertising.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Bob? Up to $1,200 for advertising.
Okay,
You okay with
sold.
that?
Yeah, when you asked me about it, my only question was just having some opportunity to review it and not finding out afterwards what it was, so,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We would never advertise without getting your sign off.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
And we should, who's going to have to sign off?
The chair typically?
Typically, it's the
Okay,
chair.
just want to make sure. Just
Well, they have your
expediency.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
moves along.
Well,
You
and
don't
you
wanna
notice
have
one of
to-
the other things here is who has the final sign off. I need to know who says yes, that I can
Yes.
take their yes
Yeah.
from.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So are we satisfied with this recommendation for advertising? Okay.
Okay. So then the next kind of longer discussion, trickier part, is the content of the advertising. This is where I was in a little debate with myself today about how to approach this. We have typically when you advertise, you've all seen, typically when you advertise for the position, you're advertising the qualifications that you want. So what does someone absolutely have to have? Licensure or ability to be licensed as a Massachusetts superintendent would be non-negotiable. Usually people ask for at least 10 years of experience. Generally, they ask for classroom experience or central office or administrative experience. I forgot the last thing. Oh, a master's degree, which is required for the license anyway. And then sometimes, usually people say advanced degree preferred. There's no magic to having a doctorate to be a superintendent. Certainly kind of depends on what institution the doctorate came from, if you have one, and how much value it has. So you have the qualifications, and then you have the key criteria. So sort of a description of what's important to you in the district of the person that you're looking for. Based on my knowledge of the district from a couple years ago, I put together some ideas, but I didn't know if I want to actually bias you with my ideas before I get your ideas.
And that was your debate?
That was my debate. Do I pass this out and bias you, or do we just talk about it first? So I'll let you settle the debate.
So would you like to have something to react to so that you can be thinking about it and make recommendations? Or do you just want to work from a big holistic empty space?
Actually, I think for the sake of time, it might
Here we
be
go.
better to hear, and react to. But normally, I think I do the opposite.
I also have, I don't have 6 copies for everybody, but I do have a bunch of sample brochures from other searches. So if you want to see things, we can sort of pass these around for you to look at too, in case you see something that spurs a thought or that makes sense to you to add.
And we have Hudson, that was in our.
That's one of, oh, you have those, yeah.
Yeah, we have some in our packet.
Right,
Yes.
right.
We'll take a couple and pass these. So take a quick look. Okay. Do you want us to just react to
Yeah.
what you've got here?
Yeah.
So one topic that's come up a lot at school committee over the years, and even going back to our governance project, is that ability to communicate well with parents and the community, and to even care about that. Those are important
Mhm.
aspects.
Mhm. So the first thing I had was communication and public relations skills. Does that capture it, or do you want something more?
Maybe if you add the words community relations or parent relations or something that makes it just a tiny bit less generic.
So we could make, instead of public relations, parent and community relations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo what Lori said. That is clearly something I believe that most of us see as very important for this role.
The administrative experience, the office administrative experience and stuff like that, I think is extremely important. I don't know how we put that in there, and I think with the challenging scenario of our need to regionalize or not regionalize, communication and working environment within the administrative offices, I know just from my due diligence and spending time talking to people in there, I think someone who really communicate and work and move throughout that office and understand what they're going through and the nature of that because of the regionalization stuff, I think is really important for this position to make that run smoothly. I think that's where it all starts, right? So I don't know how we capture that, and so I think the administrative experience is pretty important for me.
So something like strong skills in leading and building an administrative team?
Yes, leading and building.
Very dynamic, looking for a dynamic person who can understand the inter-office administrative challenges and needs, just because I think it's important.
It also reflects back to the qualifications. I'm wondering if that needs to be strengthened more. It almost sounds like you could have 10 years of teaching and apply for this job. And I don't think that's what we're looking for. I think we really want somebody who has that administrative level experience for reasons that Jim was just saying.
So you could put a year instead of including teaching. You could including teaching and X number of years of central office and administrative experience.
I would say something like a minimum of 10 years in education, including a minimum experience of 3 to 5 years in an administrative role. I don't know if that's asking a lot of somebody.
No.
who
No, it's
can't
not.
read,
It's
but-
not. Yeah. I don't know.
In Hudson, the way you worded it was minimum 10 years in education, including classroom experience and administrative and/or central office experience.
That sounds good.
So that, but do you want to put, instead of just the administrative central office, 3 to 5 years?
Well, I was just throwing that out.
Did you like what Laura said?
Yeah, that's
That's-
I'm not necessarily concerned about the number of years of experience. I just,
The way it's phrased here, it gives us a lot of latitude. I mean, it says minimum 10 years in education, including teaching, central office, administrative experience. It can be a number of combinations, and that could look different depending on the individual, but if we were looking for a 10-year block of time, and they can have a different combination of teaching and administrative experience, and, we could raise it up to 15 years, but, we're looking for a block of time, and those three things have to be present: teaching and central office and administrative experience. And those, in that block of time, it says it right here, it gives us the latitude we want, and it gives us time to put the flex to look at the different combinations of how much teaching, how much administration we want.
The balance is right, is the looser it's left, get more people. But I think the reality is we want to narrow, a little bit more narrowed search. I mean, we have some minimums. And I think when you state it that way, and even 35, you say 5 years minimum experience as an administrator, I think that has to be pretty clearly stated if it's 5 years. Or is that too much?
I guess I just want to jump in and say historically, maybe things can change, but historically, our school districts have been a breeding ground for young, new superintendents, just based on our size and our salary, and mostly because of our size and our salary, too.
But central office could mean special education director, business person.
Right.
It doesn't, central office doesn't mean superintendent.
Right. I guess I'm just a little nervous about quantifying specific years. I don't know.
I think one of the questions it does raise in my mind is, what do we really want? which is a separate issue from what can we hope to attract. And my feeling is, we don't want somebody that's brand new to be the superintendent. That's my own, I'm just voicing my own opinion here. That, you know, we've been through 5 years, there's been a lot of growth and development in the district, and the idea of starting over with somebody who has no superintendent experience is really concerning to me.
I have that reaction too. I know it's common to say licensed or eligible for licensure, but part of me doesn't want to have the eligible for licensure.
However, you could have an experienced superintendent from another state who's eligible but not licensed in Massachusetts.
Good clarification.
And you're going to have the opportunity to filter through some of that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that's going to be a little bit probably more on your responsibility in the initial phases. If you make it a big top of funnel, a lot coming in, no, and sift through quickly. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's if we over narrow ourselves,
Yes.
we may get one person and be like, oh, where are we going to go now? So, but
I think, though, that the minimum of 10 years of educational experience is really important. I would say that's a very low standard. I mean, someone who's only been in education 10 years and wants to be a superintendent, that person, boy, they must have, they're going to have to soak up a whole lot of experience in those 10 years to be able to jump into a superintendency. That, for me, that is like the lowest possible level, 10 years educational experience.
And I guess I can pretty well safely say that I don't see many resumes that they only have 10 years of experience.
yeah, we're getting just kind of a minimum threshold of,
Yeah.
I think Matt's making a good point too, that at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to how much more work is it for you? You know, if you broaden the funnel, it means you have more work to do in terms of narrowing those candidates.
Well, and I would say too, because of your timeline, and because very often the community input comes prior to putting together the pamphlet, it's a luxury you don't have to hit this timeline. You leave it broader, and then as you get the community input, then we can narrow as we get the applications.
great.
And you have a little more input about where exactly are we directing the emphasis, or, you know, which of these criteria really rise to the top in importance.
So as we discuss this, going forward too, Cliff, I think you were very, very clear and eloquent in the commentary way back in the day about we want to make sure this is a very thoughtful process. In the community, as well as the teachers, we want involvement. We got to kind of expedite some of this. When can we make sure that we get, or give them at least an opportunity to communicate with us and share with us?
So if you can approve the survey tonight, we can get that out in the next day or so. So the community can start answering the survey. We can do focus groups if you like. What we tend to find is that when people can just sit and do a survey monkey, they don't come to the focus groups. That you get a very limited audience there. And then also by picking your search committee, then you'll have more opportunity for community involvement and staff involvement in that way.
The only downside of this aggressive timeline is that you're going to start doing some description of what we're looking for before the search committee or people have had an opportunity to voice opinions.
Yeah, well, the search committee is going to be looking for who you tell them to look for. So it's really a little bit more that you won't have some of that community input. It's important to get that community input, but I rarely find community input that's counter to what the school committee is thinking anyway. I mean, you guys represent the community, so you're here because that's what you do. You represent the community, and you already have an ear to the ground about what's important to the community for the schools and for the school leadership, I think. So I don't see that as a huge drawback.
Okay. Bob, what's your perspective? Is there anything missing from this that you, as a member of central office?
I don't want to speak for everybody.
Well, no, speak for yourself.
I would say,
So he doesn't have a copy of what you guys are looking at?
Oh,
Oh, you know, that was my fault.
I did,
I don't know if you
yeah,
have
I
No,
did-
it's different. It's-
I did
no
have-
fault involved.
I did have one question on something that came up earlier, though, which was if you had to appoint an interim person, if they're not licensed, there's a time, there was a time limit to how long they could serve if they're not licensed as, for the role?
It's either, I believe it's a year.
Oh, okay. So just in case, because...
Yeah, because I've worked with a district that had a superintendent come from out of state, and he had a year to get to pass all the tests he needed to get his Massachusetts
That
licensure.
rings, that sounds about right. Yeah.
This second line here, master's degree required, semicolon, advanced degree preferred. I wonder, are you, by advanced degree referring, you mean a PhD?
It could be a PhD, it could be advanced studies.
But I was wondering if master's degree required would focus on administrative work preferred or something like that, just say what we want. I mean, we're shooting for administrative expertise, then maybe that would be the thing we should put right down here. We should maybe say master's degree required with a focus on administrative work preferred.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
In order to be eligible for a superintendent's license or to obtain a superintendent's license, you have to have a master's degree in administration. So, I mean, it's not going to be a master's degree in English Lit. You know, it's going to be a master's degree with content focused on leadership and fiscal management and personal relations and curriculum. So that's what the degree program is. So someone who holds a license, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, they would have had not only course experience, they would have had practicum experience.
Okay.
So it's not an abstract process. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me, Dorothy.
No, you are correct. You are correct. And actually, some of the advanced degrees, occasionally you see a superintendent with a law degree. You see them with doctorates in education or education leadership. Sometimes you see maybe an MBA. So the advanced degree can be a variety of things that further their education in a way that informs their work.
And I mean, back to the sort of minimum requirements, 10 years successful work experience in education administration is what Tewksbury had put in. I mean, it kind of, I think it gets a little bit beyond just the academic classroom. Is that too aggressive for our district to say?
So read it again.
10 years of successful work experience in education administration.
Education administration, not comma administration. Education administration?
No comment.
Okay.
I mean, is that so we talked about with Lauren, we don't want a newbie, right, partially. So I'm thinking somebody with 10 years of administrative skill.
Is there anything that says classroom experience as well?
Certified, I mean, selection critics who would demonstrate. Understands and recognizes good teaching. Or just agree. It's just, it's.
Yeah, I guess I would hesitate a little bit on requiring 10 years of
You didn't say mandatory.
administration.
You kind of left it a little bit looser than that. That's kind
Okay.
of why it was, maybe the fear is there to just scare people away, so I think that's, I know the space.
We get back to that funnel idea, don't we?
Yeah.
I have a question too about, I'm looking at this from the point of view of teachers and union. And I'm wondering, do you ever use language around, I'm thinking experience with unions or?
I think I had something down, where did I put it?
Oh, personnel management.
Yeah, and negotiations. So I'd like to focus, before we get into the selection criteria, on the qualifications, which is like the baseline. to make sure, just to keep us focused and hopefully chug through this in good order. So before we get ourselves distracted, can we figure out what you would like to have in terms of the experience? You're kind of bouncing around in how many, do you want to specifically say how many years in administration or leave it more open? Do you want to say minimum of 10 years in education? Classroom experience is very often something that particularly teachers like to see in a superintendent because they like to feel the superintendent has walked in their shoes at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So someone said they liked the way Hudson had phrased it, and we thought the way maybe Hudson had phrased it, and maybe you wanted to add a number of years for the administrative part of it.
Oh, that was always on there. So the wording was minimum 10 years in education, including classroom experience and administrative and/or central office experience. So it's sort of setting the baseline of saying you have to have some classroom experience in addition to central office.
Sounds good.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Because we're gonna end up making a decision on how we weigh central office experience versus teaching
Sure.
experience based on that. So I don't think we have to even putting a number of years or whatnot isn't gonna determine who we pick. So
Okay.
if we put something too particular, we're gonna.
I was going to tell Lori it sounded like it was written by angels, but I just didn't want to go that far.
That was Hudson. And Dorothy wrote that one too, I'm sure.
The way we have it written here, it gives us some flexibility, the number 2 years, and then we can, the combination of that, classroom experience to administrative, can be worked out based on the individual.
The wording in this brochure is the one we're looking at. Where we kind of like this, which is also very flexible.
Yeah. We want to give ourselves some latitude.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you okay with those three things for qualifications?
Yes.
Okay. So then, based on what we already talked about in selection criteria, strong leadership, communication, and parent and community relation skills.
Yes.
Okay.
And if I recall, you filter the candidates into us.
So that is a choice that you have. I actually prefer that the search committee gets to see all the candidates. And what I usually do is tier them. So, here's your tier 1 candidates, your tier 2 candidates, your tier 3 candidates. But the search committee gets to see everybody.
That's what I meant, but
Yeah.
so you're gonna tier them,
Yep.
we're gonna see going into each interview, this person has this much administrative
Yep.
experience, 'cause that's,
Yep.
okay, that's.
So I'm just going to back off for a second about this process, which has some open meeting law implications to it, unfortunately. That the search committee sees all the candidates. It's an executive session. And the only way for the whole school committee to see all the candidates is for the entire process to be an open session. It will limit the number of candidates that you get if you choose to do that, because a lot of candidates don't want their district where they are to know they're looking unless they're a finalist. You with me?
Yeah.
So only you and I see the candidates.
At this point, we're the only two, but we may have to add to that group.
It has to be add to that group from the school committee?
From the school committee, because with the
It has-
social
it
We
can't
have
be a
already,
quorum.
we have
It can't be a
already
quorum.
voted on we have already voted on a subcommittee
Yes.
for the
Okay.
search process,
Yeah.
which only includes 2 of us currently.
Okay.
So if we had interest in including others in the process of the search, we would need to vote them into that subcommittee as well.
Okay, so a search committee is generally an advisory committee to the school committee. So it would include, I think I gave you a draft of maybe a search committee in the
Okay,
packet.
so it would be
So
include the two of us plus.
It would include the two of you
A
plus
representation from
different stakeholders. Yes,
It'll be a big group.
yes.
Okay.
Not too big. It's too hard to make decisions with too big of a group.
I know, but it's bigger than the
It's
school
bigger.
committee.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So
And then
that would
the-
exclude the remainder of the school committee though from seeing candidates.
they would
That's what
see
you're telling me.
the entire school committee would see the finalists that are
Finalists.
recommended to them by the search
Oh,
committee.
okay, all right. I get it, okay.
Make sense?
So-
Everybody?
And those interviews are held.
Search
Those
committee would
interviews-
bring
Once,
finalists to
once
the
the,
full
ser-
school.
once the search committee has determined who the finalists are, everything is public.
Okay, got it, thank you.
And that is sometimes when candidates will withdraw.
That is, yep.
Because it'll be going public. And then-
Well, and because if they think like they don't have a really good shot at it, or they've decided, maybe it's not the match I thought, then they may decide not to go forward. Yep. Okay. So another thing, getting back to the search selection criteria, is I thought I remembered a fair amount of discussion about technology when I was here before.
Yes,
So
sure.
that's why I put understand and supports the role of technology in education.
There's also, maybe equally important with that is a focus on global education,
Global studies, yes.
Mhm.
global studies. The other thing is I have a suggestion about wording around the topic of teaching. I'm wondering if, because understanding and recognizing good teaching isn't the same in my mind as inspiring and supporting great teaching.
Mhm.
To me, that's more active and more supportive of
Very good.
teachers as well.
So,
So
again,
expertise in inspiring and supporting and inspiring great teaching.
let me write it down and then I have a question.
This feels like deja vu, doesn't it, Dorothy? When we had to do all the...
So instead of understanding, you're replacing it. Okay, that was my question. Okay.
I like a statement that I see in the Neshoba one. Proven record of fostering collaborative environment.
Yes, I wanted us to say something about collaborative. And I saw a good one here in Millbury that kind of touches on that a little bit, but which I think is true of our district. Accessibility to staff, students, and the community with a highly visible and inclusive management style.
Oh,
Ooh,
copy that one.
that's great.
Angela, could you read it again?
Accessibility to staff, students, and the community with a highly visible and inclusive management style.
Ed, why don't you just say what you want to say?
There's one here I saw in both Hudson and Tewksbury criterion, which are demonstrating knowledge of special education programming. I don't see it here, but I think it's important to include that.
I know we discussed this earlier, and I think Matt or Jim talked about it, but I like this wording in the Neshoba. Ability to maintain positive relationships with community members, school staff, school committee, and town officials.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just, let me write programming here, let's spell it right. So, read that one again.
Ability to maintain positive relationships with community members, school staff, school committee, and town officials.
So I don't want you to have a whole bunch that say essentially the same thing.
Okay.
Right? You could say, and then, because the other one I wrote down was accessibility to staff, students, and the community with a highly visible and inclusive management style. So you might like one over the other, but I wouldn't put both because they seem very much the
No, I wouldn't
same.
want to put both.
One of the ways around that is in Hudson, they sort of group it all together. Demonstrated ability to develop effective relationships with all school-related stakeholder groups, including the community at large. I don't know, I think what you said is stronger though,
I think,
to
yeah,
actually lay
Yeah.
out.
yeah.
It started out good.
Which,
Demonstrated was good. That part was good.
So are you happy with accessibility to staff, students in the community with a highly visible and inclusive management style? Or do you prefer the other wording that you had, Cliff, which was?
Proven record of, I forget what the lead in is, I don't remember. Ability to maintain. I think that's fine.
So in the proven record of fostering a collaborative environment, was that the entire statement?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Okay. And then I want to get back to one of you, either Jim or Matt, had the word dynamic that you wanted in leading and building an administrative team.
we don't have to use that, that's a sales guy word that I use.
Okay.
Way too much. Way too much than I probably should. So I'm not, I
So why don't you just say
went into that doesn't mean we have to leave it in this. My wife would shoot me right now.
So do you want to say something like demonstrated skills in leading and building an administrative team, experience in, I'm trying to think what the lead-in is.
I want candidates that are going to pull out and talk about dynamic, I'm going to use the word now.
Yeah.
Dynamic situations in the administrative and that inter-office, main office role, because I think it's very important here for the fluidity and seamless transition from one superintendent to another. And I hope that we find someone who can express what they've done creatively with situations, experience that they've been in. That, it's going to be hard to, that will relate to some of the challenges we're facing. That's all I'm really looking for.
How about demonstrated success? I just had it and then I lost it.
It doesn't need to, I'm not
Because
asking.
what I heard,
Yeah.
what I think
Well,
I heard
but I
was
think, I mean-
dynamism and enthusiasm, that kind of, yeah.
But I think what you're getting at is that ability to build that central team, right?
Correct.
So that's why I don't want to lose the leading and building the administrative team.
There is some wording, again, in the Hudson model seems to be really good, Dorothy. Proven experience in mentoring staff and fostering leadership growth.
Proven experience, I like that term.
Yeah.
Proven experience. Yeah.
I like that as well.
I don't know if those are the right words.
Well, but it might be to build on keeping that core administrative team. So proven experience in leading and building an administrative team. Would that work?
Leading and mentoring, I like that word mentoring.
Leading and mentoring?
If they have experience leading an administrative team, does that say they've been a prior superintendent?
No, because an assistant superintendent might work with a curriculum group or a group of principals or,
Leading, what I want to draw focus to is agree with the leading and the mentoring of the team, but I want to draw focus to the actual physical scenario. That it's leading and mentoring the team, proven experience team, and environment. Meaning the environment itself is unique. It's not just about leading a team or mentoring a team. So you can do that in any environment. We have a very unique environment here. With the challenges we have with the three districts. So that's, I feel like I'm opening a can of worms. You know,
No, I mean, this is an important decision, and we need to have that freewheeling conversation. So,
Well, and I think that we're always sensitive to that. We realize the environment better than most. We're always afraid sort of to reveal, but in reality, I think it's always top of mind for us. It's like, God, we may have the most dynamic leader, is the word, but have they really worked in a challenging environment like this? And that's the fear, is that we're going to bring all these people in and they're going to be like, whoa, what did I get into? But we can't scare them all away either. They're superintendent. They know what our district looks like. They can look it up online. They can figure out what's going on. They can look at history. And I'm sure some of their questions are going to be, well, how many superintendents have there been in the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And there's a history here. So that's pretty publicly known and visible information. So
Well, and it's also something that you can probe further for when you're asking questions of them.
yeah.
There's a generic way you could sort of look for or express in the selection criteria some kind of demonstrated ability to manage highly complex environments or highly complex situations or something.
You might get a lot of people who say, well, education is a highly complex
Yeah.
situation.
That's not going to get us anything different, is it? So.
So do we want to leave it as proven experience in leading and mentoring an administrative team?
yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate it.
I think, anything I can think that complicates it more just doesn't sound,
I agree.
yeah, the statement
Sounds
needs to be
complicated.
clear and precise, but not so that they cut out people.
We're overthinking it like the complicated aspect of the district instead of just kind of making it.
well, and you're going to have people that could come from complicated environments, but that aren't your complicated environment. Like if they come from a city, a large urban district, they probably have a lot of complications and that they can deal with, but they might not be your complications, but it doesn't mean that the skill isn't transferable. So as you look through the different pamphlets and read down the list that I have, anything that you want to change, delete from the list that I had, or see anything else that you think was missing that you might want to put? You don't want the selection criteria to get so long.
And you want it as open-ended as it can be. Because
Yeah, you want to give them-
you'll sift out the candidates through the
Yeah,
interview process.
right.
I do like this one that has competency in strategic planning, implementation, and oversight.
That would, that could be replaced, shows experience in long-term planning and goal setting.
Yeah.
Okay, that people sound better to people?
The strategic planning sounds better.
Yeah, okay. Do you want, in that case, would you mind reading it again?
Sure. Competency in strategic planning, implementation, and oversight. And I guess I have a problem with just singling out technology, and I wonder if we could say in addition something like, understands and supports the role of technology, social emotional learning, and globalization in education, or something, because I feel like our district has really been on the leading edge of some of these things. And
Do you want to put social emotional learning and globalization in a separate bullet from technology? Or in the same one?
I was thinking the
same
same one, because we're talking about technology
Yep.
and education, but recognizing and supporting also, I don't know, maybe it's just,
You want to put it on the table, because those are things
Yeah,
we
no,
spend years
I
on.
think that's a
I want a
great
value
thought. I
of-
think it's a great thought.
valuing the whole student.
Mhm.
I think that needs to be in there.
Yep, yep. I'm just wondering if there's globalization
Is
is
it global studies? You want to
not
just use
global
that term?
studies.
The importance of,
Or, I guess, because we have our, yeah, maybe the importance of innovative classrooms using technology. I'm trying to wordsmith it, but we have our sister schools in China, we have our global studies. But maybe it doesn't need to be in there, but I
No,
just wanna-
I like the idea.
Part of those, I wonder how you're right, it's hard to put the words in there because, but that's part of the selection criteria, I think, when we get to a point of probing and Q and A, and that's gonna probably be the difference between the tier 1 and the tier 2 person for us, is gonna be, the tier 1's gonna say, well, they've been dealing with global studies, they're, social and emotional
They're very-
learning is
yeah,
important.
they've been working
Those are the
with
things,
social
and I don't
learning.
know if it's even, like, we could build this whole list of the criteria, and we may self-select out most people, right?
I would say you're not going to select out people by putting in social emotional
Okay,
learning.
no,
It's
it's
such a
very,
huge
very
focus.
important. But I think that we maybe pick, maybe that, I think the global studies is probably, as much as it's important, I think it's a current thing for us. I think that's something we can sort of touch upon through process, but, because I don't know.
Well, and the other thing that you can do is make sure that as you're doing your descriptions in the other parts of the
Yeah.
pamphlet, is emphasize whether it's the community profile or something, that you have a chance to say, this is something that we're proud of and is important to us in our schools.
Yeah.
And, someone for whom that is important will probably latch right onto that, because is somewhat unique.
There's probably more of a school profile piece
Yeah, I
now,
think
maybe.
so, yeah.
That's a good point.
But you are adding social and emotional.
I'll add in social emotional learning.
I think that's cool.
Actually, my tendency would be to put, understands the role of social emotional learning and technology, not the
Yeah,
first.
that sounds
Yeah.
great, thanks.
I'm really surprised it's not showing up in any of these, because it's such a.
Yeah, when Angela said that, I thought, oh, yeah, why
It
isn't
doesn't seem dated, but I think the importance and the visibility of that subject is really, last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
It's really become.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Surprising to some extent what isn't here. I've heard from parents that wanted more of a stronger program in the arts, and while we're looking for a superintendent, we might be looking for someone with a strength in promoting the arts in school. And say that, but I know a number of parents who are concerned about that, and that's also, by the way, why I brought up the special education issue, because I know parents that are concerned about that, and they would want a superintendent that is concerned with both of those issues. And I don't see them here. I see the special education listed in these two.
To participate. I don't think we need to
Yeah, I mean, occasionally.
I don't think we need one of each.
I don't think we're
Okay.
gonna get, I don't think we're gonna get a floodgate here of everyone has some comment, but doesn't always have the time to participate, right?
Do you want to specify those roles as town officials? I mean, are we feeling that it's so important that a selectman or somebody, a town official is a part of this, that we want to actually specify those roles instead of leaving it broad-based? I'm asking this as a question. I don't have a strong feeling.
Well, if we say 2 community representatives and 2 town officials.
They might come back and tell us we're the town officials.
Yeah, that would certainly demonstrate
Say that's
our
great.
desire to be inclusive.
So wait, are you saying 2 community representatives and 2 town officials? You're asking for 4? Well, I think you already heard my opinion.
Well, you didn't say what kind of town with officials. It could be.
It could be selectmen, it could be, well, I mean, generally, when we're thinking about town officials, could be the selectmen, they could choose to have a town manager. Sometimes the police chief is on a search committee. My boss always likes it when the police chief's on the search committee because he said they always know when people are lying, but.
All right, so we want to change that to 2 town officials. Angela, come on.
I
say
just
it.
think that town officials work more with the superintendent
Okay.
in a direct relationship
Okay.
than a community member.
Okay.
So you're advocating for just the town officials?
That's what I'm advocating for.
So then you're, one from Berlin, one from Boylston?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you do 2 town officials and/or their selected appointment? Meaning if they say they're not going to do it, but they nominate.
I guess what I would suggest is that Cliff go to the chair of the Board of Selectmen and say, we're looking for someone, would you like to send someone? It could be one of the Board of Selectmen, it could be the town administrator. Would you like to send someone? And let them,
If you want to separate those duties, you can do Berlin and I can
It was.
do Boylston.
And if the town doesn't send someone, or can't get anyone to commit to it, we could then consider a community member.
Right.
Would that be fair to say?
Fair.
Okay.
okay,
More than fair. Good.
Okay.
okay. Okay, we're almost to the bottom.
You're
of the
doing
list.
great. I mean, this is,
May I ask one question, please? The 1 principal and 1 central office administrator is going to be chosen by the,
Principals and central office administrators.
central office administrators.
Yeah.
Do you have an official team name? Like, are you like Team Tohoto or something? Do you have like a name?
superintendent's office, right?
They call me admin team. Dean calls it the admin team. That includes the principals and the central office.
It's late. What's someone down the road too?
Make sure there's enough copies.
I have one already because I
Oh, you already-
printed it
Okay.
off.
Thank you.
So I'll be honest with you, this is relatively boilerplate in terms of asking for input about what's important. You know, what do people see as important in the next superintendent? What skills and background and abilities do they think the next superintendent should have? It's always nice when people choose to put something in the open-ended comments. That can be informative.
I read the survey a couple times. I thought it was adequate for the purpose. I didn't see the need to tweak it, but I think
Do
this.
you want to mention regionalization at all on this?
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
I think this covers the community sort of member also, because now you are reaching out, you're providing that access.
Yeah,
point.
definitely, definitely.
Great. Love it.
Is this something that's going to be on the Berlin Town Hall webpage?
You can, as broadly as you want to get it out there. I would suggest you get it out there in as many places as you can.
Are we able to send it out through the school district? Do we have a way of sending that to the
We
community?
do have a way of doing
Well,
that.
not the community, just the parent community, but we could put it on the
Facebook's and.
town's Facebook page, and we could put it on the Berlin Neighbors.
Okay. So the town Facebook pages, this district page, web page?
You need
You
all of
could.
that.
You could put, if you have a way to email people, you'll email them a link, right?
It's just a link to
Okay.
share, right?
You'll give them.
Yes.
Okay, good, so it'll tap
I
in
Give your
for you.
reporter the link to put
I
in the
post the
paper.
agendas and the minutes and everything on the website, and some of the, well, whatever comes from the regionalization committee. So the thing about posting it on the district pages, there's like, you could probably create its own page or put it, I don't know if something exists already, but that would have to be, could talk to Paul about, but
Well, it would
this be able
It would be a
to-
link. It's a Survey Monkey.
So it would bring it
So it'd
to
be
a
link,
web.
right.
Okay,
So if
yeah.
you have something on your homepage that's news or something like that, you could just put the link right on the homepage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no legal ramifications when we post the link, right? So
Say
like,
that?
we can post it anywhere, right?
Yeah.
As individuals, as school committee members, we can post it.
I don't know about
We'll talk
that.
to Paul.
And ask him whatever.
Oh, I'm just thinking we can post it in all of the neighbors connect things, right? The Boylston Neighbors Connect.
Yeah.
On fire these days, so it'd be a good thing. Good job to post it. Come on.
We have is there any reason why this couldn't be sent out in an email to parents?
Sure,
It's going to
absolutely.
be parents only, we're just saying.
But that would be parents
not getting
only.
Broader, beyond parents.
Okay, but the community, I don't know how many people are going to participate and respond to this if they don't have kids in.
It's always good to ask.
Right, no, I agree with that, but if you wanted to make sure you get all the parents.
Oh, we will do that.
We can use School
That's one-
Messenger.
That's number one.
Okay.
Are you with me?
No, I'm just
Stretching?
putting that here with my reason to get out of the block for a minute.
So we have the comments about the survey.
And I agree, I think everything's in here.
It looks great.
The town, those could that could be posted on the town website.
Okay, so then the last thing is whether or not you want to have focus groups as well. The only way that I could see to do it would be to do it like the week of Labor Day. And I'm guessing you have a lot of people who are busy getting back to school and I honestly, I don't mean to act like I'm trying to say work for myself, but with the online survey, very often you'll get maybe half a dozen people at a focus group. And you,
So I think we reserve the right if we get to a point in time where we need more feedback in the focus group.
oh, sure, you can always do that.
Coming out
Yep.
of the gate, I don't believe that's a necessary
Yeah,
component.
yeah, we can always add them later. That's easy.
I
That's
would
easy.
agree. You know,
Okay.
I certainly have worked in school systems where the process was a 9-month ordeal with multiple levels of focus groups and all kinds of consultations, but when I mean not every time, nor are we that big a school system. I think this,
We've run sessions for community support and communication on the regionalization, and we get 1 or 2 people, so it's a reality. I think the survey is probably the best way to reach our community anyways.
Okay. Okay. So are there, search-wise, are there any other questions for me? Okay. Just when you're looking at the search timeline, you might want to look at your calendars and carve out as much time as you can that week of October 9th and October 16th, because for being involved in site visits and interviews.
And will that be the whole?
That would be the
community
whole,
at large?
yeah, by that time, everything's, will be
people who are
public and everyone will
available,
be.
sure, like if you gotta work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you all want to be here when you're interviewing.
Yeah, absolutely for the interviews.
So that would be the week of October 16th in the evenings, if you can keep those free, or we'll have to figure out a way to work around. Kind of depends on how many finalists you have, too.
So I have questions about
Yeah.
the advertising materials finalized for web posting, brochure mailing, since I see it's 6 days from now. I know that I have to ask Carol about the community description. What else do we need to do?
Okay, if you take one of the sample brochures, it's pretty boilerplate what the other information you'll want is. You know, a list of how many teachers you have, how many students you have. If you want to get any pictures in the brochure, I'll need pictures. I forgot what I was going to say. You might, in looking at the brochure tonight, some of them are like fit in a business size envelope, smaller ones, some of them are that size. So do you have any preference about
Do we have preference?
the look
Do
of
you
the
like the
brochure?
trifold large or trifold small? This is the business envelope size.
And they're being sent directly to each of the communities, correct? That's the-
Yeah, they'd be sent directly to people who we're hoping to recruit.
My personal preference is
Financial.
I like this size, it's probably more expensive.
But you're still gonna be within that $1,200 for printing and mailing.
Larger.
I kind of like larger too.
Okay.
I would agree. It stands out.
Would Cheryl Nelson have access to all the data pieces we're looking at plugging?
We'll call Cheryl tomorrow.
My guess is that's probably the right person.
That, yeah,
to be in central office,
generally,
you know.
yeah.
Teachers, but, so we probably don't want to over.
Is there a particular format we have to go
Liability.
No, you just give us the information. and we-
Okay.
And we put it together. So why don't I work with you tomorrow, and we'll figure out how to get all the
Yes,
information.
good
put together.
idea.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the search. Or
A search.
how much capacity do you have, or do you have any capacity for doing workshop?
I'm going to suggest that we have no capacity for workshop.
I'm going to second that one.
Okay, it's been a grueling evening. But we don't want to drop
Mhm.
the idea, correct? Oh, Lori.
No. I think this happened to us once before too. We need to separate scheduling of meetings. We had a huge agenda tonight, and we thought we were just going to focus on the workshop. And I understand the timeliness around this stuff, but we had other items as well. And I think if we're going to do workshops, we need to carve that time out and say, it's only a workshop and not squeeze in
Yeah.
any kind of school.
Good point.
I agree. I think this was, if I'm correct, we originally put this on the calendar before some other things changed in the district.
A whole lot changed.
So-
Yeah, it was
It's on the
originally,
calendar.
I had it on my calendar originally as a workshop.
Yeah, way back, and I think some things changed.
Yes,
We're
it
dealing with.
did.
So fortunately, we had you scheduled, and it kind of more dovetails into the current state of what we're trying to deal with. I think the workshop is a valuable piece to us.
I'm going to suggest that we kind of get through the search process before we do this, but pick a date that's just the workshop. So it probably would happen in November. Is that okay?
It's okay with me.
Are you okay with that, Dorothy?
I think that makes
I think it's
sense.
funny, I think having read through the pre-information, it's like we're touching upon the couple of the things that I think we hadn't done a great job at too, is the community-based involvement as strong as we wanted to, and it sounds like we're already really keyed in on that, so.
Dorothy's going to get to know us really well by the time we have the workshop. So in November, we have a tri-meeting scheduled for November 14th. Do we still want to use Tuesdays? Can we schedule a workshop? Okay. Thanksgiving is when, the 29th? No, the 30th. No,
No,
23rd. I'm going to be bold and propose the Tuesday, November 28th, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Okay. The end of November is better for me.
Is that good?
I'm away at the beginning of November.
Second?
Okay. And Jimmy, would you be able to be here?
The end of November is better for me, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm on vacation, I have vacation.
Okay, so November 28th is good for most people?
That should be good.
Can we start early?
Can we start early? Well, let's ask.
Do you think, yes, absolutely.
What time would you
Name
like
the
to
time.
Six.
6?
Yeah.
6?
It's tight to get there.
And it'll be darker and colder, 6.
Yeah, dark and colder, we look at that exciting. Is it 6 o'clock okay on
Is you fine as long as I can clear it in advance?
Great.
Okay, so you want 6?
Let's go with 6.
Okay.
November 28th at 6.
You're on my calendar.
6. Thanks for sticking with us, Troy.
Oh, not at all, not at all.
I probably had a feeling when you were coming in today that I wasn't going to expect that.
Is there any other questions for Dorothy or me, or is there anything else we need to discuss?
Thank you so much. I know this is a lot on your plate, so I really appreciate you, Cliff.
Well, you're entirely welcome, but those of you who are doing the regionalization subcommittee have a lot on your plate. So just trying to step up and do my bit.
Well, you're stepping up into the appointments.
Okay, so we're going to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by
Seconded.
second.
Move to second.
Lori moved, Matt seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Then a motion to adjourn the Berlin School Committee meeting.
Yes, you do.
Have a second?
Yes.
Second. That's for you.
Okay.
Lori would go.
I do it, but...
And do I have a motion?
Wait. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn the Berlin School. So moved. Yes.
Second.
Go with that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. And we can go home.
Now we can go.
Thank you, everyone, for the